All right, let's get started. Thanks everyone for joining. My name is Carl Dubler with Keebo. I'm sitting here in my home office in the Denver, Colorado area. We're glad you could join us for this webinar, Optimizing Snowflake to do more with fewer credits. My email address is there on the screen. If you'd like to get in touch after this is over with maybe some comments or questions, feel free to reach out. We'd love to hear from you. But for this webinar, if you do have a question, you don't need to wait till it's over or wait for a Q&A time. There is a Q&A button at the bottom of the Zoom window there, and you can go ahead and type in whatever questions you have the moment they come into your mind, and then I have some colleagues standing by that can answer in that Q&A window for you. So either that way, or again, feel free to reach out afterwards. We'd love to hear from you anytime. If you're not familiar with us, we're a machine learning company, and what we do is we automate data warehouse optimizations and query acceleration. We're based on 15 years of research at top universities, and yes, we are a Snowflake partner. And we know that many Snowflake customers right now are facing a couple of business imperatives that may be at odds with each other when it comes to Snowflake. One is that, of course, you need to get more data out into the hands of more users, more analytics to more business users. But that can be kind of at odds with another imperative that we know many customers of ours are facing right now, and that is the pressure to cut costs, especially in this economy. Now, our goal here with this webinar and our goal as a company is we think that you should be able to do both of these things. We think that you should be able to save money on Snowflake, but also be able to expand your use of it. And we think you should be able to do that without any effort from your data team. Some of the customers of ours you see here on the screen, they're able to do this. So I'd like to show you how you can do this with Snowflake optimizations. We'll take a look at how Keebo does it, and then later on in this webinar, we'll take a more comprehensive look at Snowflake optimization as a whole and where Keebo fits in there, and where you could also look at some other optimizations that could save you money. The best way, I think, to show you how we can achieve these goals of saving money on Snowflake, yet also using Snowflake more, is to actually just show you the software. So let me break out of the slideware here, and I will go right into the product. You're looking at it. Here it is. This is Keebo's warehouse optimization for Snowflake. This is not a demo system that you're looking at here. This is actually a customer instance of Keebo. They've given us permission to show you this part of our portal. And they've been using Keebo now for a bit over a year. And so I have this graph set to the last year by month. And you can see over the last year, we've managed to save this particular customer a little more than half of their Snowflake credits. That's what these numbers are. You see here, this 18,000 number. That's the number of credits that we've saved them over the last year. I'll get into the details of how that works here in just a moment. This saved credits graph that you see is the most important part of the portal. So we're going to dive into that in detail here in just a minute. But it's important to know that this particular customer has also achieved the second part of that goal that I mentioned. They're using Snowflake more than they did at the beginning of this year, in the last year. So you can see that their queries executed have gone up quite steadily, especially starting around October of last year. So they're using Keebo more, they're paying for it less. Any complaints? Well, if we look at the query execution time down here, it's held steady. In other words, the users haven't noticed any performance difference. In fact, this particular customer told me that only the data team and the CFO even know that Keebo is running in the background. And so they're managing to get all of the goals met. Saving money, using Snowflake more. The data team doesn't have to do much. This is fully automated, and the CFO is quite happy with the savings. We have a projections tab over here on the left. And what this lets us do is take a look at this particular customer and estimate what we'll be able to save them over the next year. So let's assume that they're going to continue growing like they have been. And let's base this projection off of the last 3 months when they've been really increasing their usage of Snowflake quite a bit. And at their cost per credit of $2.60, we're predicting a savings of about a third over the next 12 months. For them, that's about $38,000. So this customer isn't exactly the biggest Snowflake spender out there. We have customers from across the spectrum. We have customers that are looking at 7 figures of Snowflake spending, all the way down to this customer who is spending 76,000, or at least we predict they will. It would have been 114. So what will the savings be in your case? Well, we need to try it out to see, but we have seen anywhere from 20% savings. We have a published case study on our website where one particular customer was saving as much as 70% on Snowflake costs. Is this good? Well, it kind of depends on your Snowflake spend situation. If you spend a lot of money on Snowflake, maybe 10%, 15% would be awesome. So we have customers across the whole size spectrum here of Snowflake, big ones, small ones, and everything in between. And this projections tab will help them understand what their savings might be over the next 12 months. This on the left here, this optimizations tab, what this does is show what Keebo is doing all the time. So if I look at a particular warehouse here, this is showing over the last week all of the real-time optimizations that Keebo has done with their Snowflake, this particular Snowflake warehouse. So between this optimizations tab and this billing tab, you're able to look at everything that Keebo is doing, where we're saving you money, how we're optimizing, what we're optimizing, the values that we're setting things to, so you have the visibility you need to track this over time. And I think it's important to understand these are real-time optimizations. We know that there's other solutions out there that do things like Snowflake governance control, where you set policies about how Snowflake should operate. We're different in that we're actually doing these optimizations in real time. This isn't just a report where we show you, hey, this is where you could save money, or this is where you are spending money. We're actually making the optimizations in real time so that you get real savings rather than just a report or some kind of governance or workflow over Snowflake. We're actually doing the work in real time. So let's drill down into this saved credits chart, because this is where the most interesting stuff happens here. So here's how the pricing works and the savings works. So this is, I'm zooming in on this picture here into that saved credits chart. And let's look at the very last week I've got here. This is the week of February 22nd. I took this from that same customer example that you were looking at just a moment ago. So these are real numbers here for them. The week of February 22nd, this dark blue bar here shows that they actually used 600 Snowflake credits. Now, if Keebo were not in place, and if we weren't doing those real-time optimizations, then they would have spent more like 1,200, almost double what they have here. So you can see the top of this light blue bar is what they would have used. So the difference in the middle, this light blue bar, that is what Keebo saved them this particular week. So if you do the math, this comes out to be something like a little over $1,500 that particular week and of savings. And now we will take a percentage of that savings, and then the customer gets to keep the rest. So by default, we're looking at a third. So we charge a percentage of the savings here. And so this customer would have had $1,000 extra to spend however they see fit for that particular week, whether they use it to expand their Snowflake use like this company is doing, or whether they just save that money and use it for something else. Well, that's up to you. So this is how it works. It's a unique pricing model where we basically charge you a percentage of what we save you. So this is actually a very interesting proposition for you to take back to your CFO, because after a trial, you will know, we'll have a very good idea of what we think we can save you. And then the CFO has a lot less heartburn about it, because you're basically only paying us a percentage of that rather than some other way of doing it where it's not tied to savings. We want it to be tied to savings because we think that makes it very easy to use Keebo and to adopt it without having to worry about pricing very much. So that's how this part works here. I mentioned you saw the optimization dashboard. Here's a little bit of information on it here. You saw this optimization dashboard, in fact, almost this exact one. There's also a billing dashboard, which I can't show you for this customer, but That billing dashboard shows you the credits that you've used by warehouse and by day. You can view it by day or by Snowflake billing cycle so that you have the visibility that you need to understand what Keebo is doing and what it's saving you. Now, what is Keebo doing? I keep mentioning optimizations, so we should probably talk about that, right? So when it comes to Snowflake, when I say fully automated optimizations, it comes down to these four types of optimizations here. We do downsizing of the warehouse, upsizing of the warehouse, multi-cluster optimization, and memory optimization. So in the most basic example, if we notice that your warehouse is underutilized, we will downsize it so that you're paying less for that warehouse when you don't need to have it be as big as it already is. We can do the reverse for upsizing. So we do all of these things. And now those of you who have been around Snowflake for a while, you'll look at this and you'll say, well, I could do that too. I could downsize the warehouse when I know that we're not going to need it. And that's true. You could do that. So these are levers that you can pull, so to speak, with Snowflake optimization. But we think that this robot over here, represented by this friendly robot dog, we think that the robot dog could do a better job of it and get more savings for you. Because if you look at manual tuning versus automatic, there's a couple of things that become apparent. It's tedious and it's costly to devote data engineering hours to tuning Snowflake. So if it was just a simple matter of, every week or so changing the warehouse size, well, okay, then maybe that's a little bit more achievable when you're doing things manually. But you can really drive a lot of savings if you are looking at the Snowflake performance and optimization constantly, all the time, 24/7, 365. So the automatic way, well, basically it takes us about 30 minutes to set up Keebo. You'll see the settings here in just a minute. And then you don't need to do anything. Let the robot do all the optimization. Also, you'll see when I get into the setup, we look at a lot of data. We look at all of your usage going on in real time. We look at about 30 different parameters of Snowflake in order to make these optimizations. Even if you loved doing that, which our customer Trish here from PayJoy says, even if she loved doing all of that optimization, there's no way she could do what Keebo could do automatically, because we're looking at tons of data and making optimizations all the time, not just once a day or once a week, something like that. Also, the problem with manual optimization is that it doesn't end. Your workloads are going to change. You might decide to start spreading Snowflake out to more users, and that now you're going to have a different set of optimizations to do. So we think that this is a job that is best left to a robot, because that gives you the time back to focus on more strategic issues like getting the right analytics, the right data pipelines that your users need, and let the robot take a look at all of the different settings and make all of the optimizations in real time. So what we need to do next is we need to look at how all of this is set up and controlled. What are the settings? What are these optimizations exactly? And how do we control it? So let me go back to, I'm going to use a different system here now. For the settings, I'm not going to use the customer setting for that because I don't want to mess anything up in there. And there's also some security stuff we need to talk about. So I've switched over to a demo system for this part of our webinar here. And the demo system only has one warehouse in it. I don't think we have any customers that only have one warehouse. Usually they have a Snowflake account that might have many warehouses in them in each account. So you would see a separate line here for each warehouse that we are optimizing. All right, so this particular warehouse, it's a demo warehouse, like I mentioned, and we're doing all the different optimizations on it. The automated downsizing, upsizing, we're doing the multi-cluster optimizations and the memory optimizations. Now we have this very interesting cost-saving slider bar over here on the right. And this is so that you can maybe inform the algorithm a bit more if you would like. Now, most of our customers simply leave this here in the balanced position, right in the middle. And what that means is that our robots will look for cost savings wherever they can, as long as it doesn't affect performance. That's what this setting here in the middle is. So That's usually what people want, right? Save me as much money as I can, but I don't want users complaining. Okay, so that is that middle section right there. But there may be, because this is a warehouse by warehouse setting, you're not setting this for the entire Snowflake account. This is per warehouse. So there may be some warehouses where you want to increase the probability of savings. And if that's the case, you can take the slider bar and move it one notch to the right or all the way over to the right if you want to. And what you're doing is you're increasing the probability of savings by telling the robot, that friendly dog robot, to be a little more aggressive, looking for cost savings. Now, this could come with an increased possibility that some queries might slow down. I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but it does increase the chances of that happening too. So there may be some warehouses where that's perfectly fine, where you'd rather save more money, and the small chance of a performance slowdown is not a scary subject. There may be other warehouses where you want to do the opposite, where you want to tell the robot to be even more conservative in looking for savings. So you can move that over to the left if you want. But like I mentioned, most of our customers, they might come to the settings screen once or twice a year. They leave it in balance, they set it and forget it. And again, part of the value proposition here is this goes beyond just a reporting or governance thing. We're actually making the optimizations, and we do it in a fully automated way. There's an on and off switch as well for each warehouse. If you want to turn off Keebo for some reason or come back and re-enable it, you can do that with a switch. But this kind of tends to be rather binary. If you'd like to get a little more fine-grained control, you can come here to the edit button. This is where you set the defaults for each warehouse, or you can go in and create a rule so that if there's a specific day and time where you want to set some parameters on how the robot works, like maybe the default warehouse size or some of the multi-cluster settings, or maybe you want to say during a specific date and specific day and time, I don't want to do downsizing, you can set all of that. So you've got some fine-grained control here as to how this works. Now, that's all pretty straightforward. What about security? Because I know many of you probably have a chief security officer who's going to come bearing a spreadsheet for any vendor to fill out that talks about all the security things that we need. And I've got good news for you there, in that we don't really require that much for security when it comes to this. So this is the security settings here. Basically, when we set this up, we create a user in Snowflake, in your Snowflake account. Well, actually, you create the user. We give you the specs for that user, and the specs are basically found in this Keebo schema. And so let me show you that schema. Basically, what we need is we need access to these fields, this usage metadata. Some people call it telemetry metadata. We don't need access to any user data. So you're not giving us access to sensitive information. All we're looking at is this usage metadata. And then, of course, the Snowflake account that you give us also needs to be able to make the changes to the warehouse size, the memory, cache, multi-cluster settings, and all that stuff as well. So if you think about it, this is what our robot is doing. It's analyzing all of these fields all the time, 24/7 by 365, plus taking your usage into consideration, what's going on real time with your usage of Snowflake, to make the optimizations that will save you money. It'd be very difficult for a human to keep up with that. So back here on the settings, this is where you'd specify that user. So it's all controlled by you. It's all auditable by you. And we just basically see only what we need to do our job, and not any bit more than that. So we love the spreadsheets from your CSO. If you want to send one to us, we'd be happy to fill it out. But the good news is that it's very lightweight on the security side of what we require from you, is not very much at all. So very low risk here in getting started. So this is it. This is all the settings that we have for you here in the warehouse optimization for Snowflake. There isn't anything else to do other than go through these settings and then see what happens as we run the algorithms and begin to look at the cost savings. So let's now place this into a bit broader context about Snowflake optimization. So you kind of understand where Keebo can help you out, and then what you might want to look at on your own if you're looking at doing Snowflake optimizations. Either way, we're here to help. We do have an ebook on optimizing Snowflake cost and query performance. We'll send you the link to get it when we follow up after this webinar with an email to you so that you can get it. But basically in this book, this ebook, we talk about the 4 different categories of Snowflake optimization. And I'm going to drill down into the specific suggestions that we make, because in this, again, I'm not going to cover every one of these bullet points. So don't worry if you're like, wait, how long is this webinar? We've got about 6 minutes left. So I'm not going to go into each of these bullet points here and talk about how to do every single one of them, but you can get some of the detail, including some sample code and such from that ebook. But what we have been talking about, this whole point, is way over to the right there, the warehouse optimizations. And this is, we think, a very quick and easy place to start. You know already, if you've been around Snowflake for a while, that you can do some of these things on your own. Hopefully, I've shown you that it's actually worth it to have the robots do it. And we're only going to charge you a percentage of what we save you anyway. So there's really very little risk in trying out making this automatic. Automating the warehouse optimization. There's really nothing in the way from stopping you to do that. On the other side of this, it gets a little more difficult in the query optimizations with Snowflake. And we have a list of some of the things that we see pretty frequently that we think people should avoid or maybe do better. You probably didn't need to go to a webinar to hear that select star is not a good idea. So that first bullet point is probably not a surprise for you. But did you notice when I was doing the demo that we also have a query acceleration product as well? So this may be something that you're interested in. If you want to begin to optimize how you do queries, we can actually talk about this product at some point with you as well, if you'd like. This product from Keebo, what it does is it looks at the queries as they're happening in real time. So it's a totally different product than warehouse optimization, because we're looking at the actual queries, and we build something called smart models dynamically, which is roughly equivalent to like a materialized view. And then we rewrite the query to use that smart model, and it can really speed things up. This is excellent, especially for dashboard acceleration. So if you're looking at this list right here and you're thinking, okay, I need to be doing some of these query optimization stuff too, there is a checklist of things that you could go over and maybe, like this one, use a left join instead of in or exists. And maybe that can speed things up, but also you may want to look at automating parts of this as well too in the future, where we're looking at every query as it happens in real time, and let the robots help you with that as well. All of this is designed to help you. Automating all of this is designed to help you spend your time where we think you will probably find it more valuable, and that is to work on data pipelines and making sure that the business users know how to use the analytics that you're providing them. So please do check out that ebook. Again, we'll send you a link afterwards, because it does go into detail for all these optimizations. But hopefully I've maybe kind of convinced you that what you should do to begin with is start looking at the warehouse optimization. And we'd love to help you try this out with the warehouse optimization for a couple of weeks. It is fully automated. It doesn't take long to set up. It doesn't have arduous security requirements. You don't need to make any changes anywhere, and you'll start to see some of those saving results in about 24 to 48 hours. The trial is 2 weeks long, so that we can get at least a couple weeks of data to make those cost savings in your Snowflake system. So it's been almost a half an hour. I'm going to take a look at the Q&A panel. I know some of you probably have to drop at the very bottom of the hour. If that's the case, thank you for joining us. And again, please feel free to reach out if there's something that we can answer for you, or if you have a comment. But as long as I got a couple extra minutes here, we are recording this. So I do want to see if there's maybe any questions that people would be asking or would be wondering if they're watching this in the recording later. So I'm looking at the questions here. It looks like we have answered most of them, but I'm going to call out a couple that I think look interesting. Someone's saying here, we're also looking at Slingshot. Okay, so Slingshot from Capital One. Again, I would say what's the difference between us and that solution is fully automated. Slingshot does a very good job of setting up governance, like financial controls and workflow, like approving a new warehouse in Snowflake and making sure that new warehouse is following your policies. But we're more focused on the real-time, fully automated optimization. So I think that would be the big difference here. Okay, another question is, what if we change the workload? How can we compare the current versus the old workloads in a time period? All right. So we estimate savings based on the impact of what we do on your organization. So as we downsize, for example, we will track what it would have been, what those queries would have taken without us, and then we compare them to what we did, the optimization, and then that difference is then how we make those projections. How many Snowflake accounts can you handle? We don't have a limit. So the portal that I showed you though, that portal is by Snowflake account. So when you log into your Snowflake account, you will see all of the warehouses in that account. Somebody is asking if we are on Snowflake Marketplace. Not yet. We are part of the program, so we're going to be working on that. Someone is asking, the cost savings that we showed, that I showed, is that what is that? And that's expressed. What I showed you on the dashboard was showing Snowflake credits saved. How much dollars you save, of course, depends on your pricing tier with Snowflake and how that all works. Let's see. What if you're a small customer? Can you do much? And the answer is, yeah, we have. I mean, you saw the example I showed at the beginning. We do work with both large and small customers, and downsizing is only one of the optimizations. So if you're already running on pretty small warehouses anyway, that's just one of the things that we look at optimizing. We do a bunch of other ones as well. Okay, I'm just going to see if there's anything else. Those were the basic questions. I kind of went through those very quickly. If again, if there's something that I didn't quite answer to your satisfaction, or you'd like to follow up, Carl@Keebo.ai is where to go. I'm 55 seconds over, so I have no idea if anyone's even still on the webinar right now, but the recording is there. And so if you're still watching, thank you so much. We're glad you can join us. Hopefully we've inspired you on some things that you could do to not just help you, but to save money for your organization and even provide Snowflake to more people. So that's it for us. I'll say thank you very much and goodbye. We hope to hear from you soon.